Hello folks, Plastic Eric here, Plastic Soundwave Cult, here for a surprisingly warm edition of Collection Connection. The game is just an excuse to talk about music. It's a game I play with my brother Bryce over on Good Show Ponsonby. Every Monday I will show an album or tape or CD from my collection, and Bryce will show a connection to that album. I'm going to start this over and action. Oh, get out of the way. And action. Hello, everybody. Plastic Eric here, Plastic Soundwave Cult, here for another amazing edition, a little bit warm today, of Collection Connection. The game is just an excuse to talk about music. It's a game that I play with my brother Bryce over on Good Show Ponsonby. What I do is every Monday, I talk about an album from my collection, and then on Thursday, Bryce will talk about an album from his collection, and those albums will be connected. And what is that connection? I'm not going to tell you. So, the connection that was between Air, Moon Safari, and Robin Hitchcock, I Often Dream of Trains. The connection was both albums start with an instrumental and end with an instrumental. That is the connection between the two albums. And unfortunately, nobody was able to figure that one out. That was a tough one. But it's going to be easy compared to the one I'm coming up with. I'll tell you that right now. And so, Bryce talked about Robin Hitchcock, I Often Dream of Trains, as an album that he really, really enjoys. He says it's the number 3 album in his ranking of top 100 albums, 200 albums. I can't remember, but it's definitely up there. It's number 3. And so I felt a little bit anxious listening to it. I wouldn't know if I would rank it that high, but again, I've only listened to this album maybe twice now. I listened to it a couple times. This was kind of very similar to when I did the Shout Out Louds, in the sense of it took me a little bit to get used to it, which is why I listened to it for a second time. I did enjoy how it starts off so like dark and menacing. The first song, Nocturne, was it's very, very down, or ominous. Maybe that's more what I should say. Dark and ominous. And it goes through the next couple of songs, which are definitely, a little bit more, have a bit more levity to them. But then when it gets to Incorrect Personality Traits, that totally turns the whole head around on it. I think that was a brilliant song. To be honest, it totally made me think of like Monty Python had done that track. It seems like one of those skit show type things that you would see on an English skit show, I guess. It is quite interesting. I can remember the gist of it, but as the album went on, I did get into the songs. And to be honest, I'm a big drum guy, big rhythm section guy, so the fact that it doesn't have drums in it was a little bit off for me. But Bryce had suggested that as a possible connection, but then I knew I would have to put Bryce through some tougher albums for him, I think, to listen to than he would want to. So I didn't go with that connection. But as I went through, I believe it is Autumn Is Your Last Chance. That was a really good song. I Often Dream of Trains, the title track to it, was also a very good song. Those were the two that really stuck out to me on my first listen, that made me want to go through and listen to it again. And then it ends on Nocturne. So it is bookend by 2 instrumentals, and again, very ominous on those songs. Overall, I thought the album was pretty good. I think it's one of those albums that probably Bryce likes it so much because he's listened to it so many times. It does seem like one of those albums like for me, this kind of album would have been Skylarking, that I thought was okay when I first listened to it, but the more that I listened to it over time, I got to appreciate the album more and more. And so, like, for me, Skylarking is a higher album, has moved up in my personal rankings, even though I haven't really ranked them out, but it would be in the top 50 of albums for me personally. And so it's one that I'm going to be kind of looking out for, because I did find it very interesting, especially the last half of the album. But then, what could I possibly connect this album to? Let's find out. So if you haven't guessed already, the beginning is kind of a clue to what the connection is. It's actually a two-part connection. It doesn't have to do with these albums directly, as much as it has to do with the bands themselves. So, Robin Hitchcock and the band I'm going to show here, Elephant Stone. Now, at first glance, you might think the connection would be both of these album covers, as far as the artist goes, is very difficult to read. You can kind of see Elephant Stone on there. This is their second album. I think it's their first album from 2013. And it turns out I was correct. This did come out in 2013, but I was incorrect. Not their first album. Their first album is called Seven Seas, The Seven Seas. I really dig this album. Found them by accident. I was doing a homework album for one of these collection connections, and many times I don't have the album that Bryce is connecting, so I just use Spotify. And if you've used Spotify at all, you know that Spotify will, once you finish listening to an album, will start suggesting songs and bands that they think you might like that go along with what you're listening to. Cannot remember what the homework album that I was listening to, but this is going to be a lot easier to do, because this is like a flat board, so I don't know why I kept that thing on. Terrible direction on this video today. But this song came up from this album called Sally Go Round the Sun. It's only like 1 minute and 24 seconds long. Very short song, but very intense. It had psychedelic elements and Indian traditional musical elements. The sitar, and I believe it's called the tableau. I'm not sure if that's what the name of the drum is, but it had that on it, and I found it interesting, so I looked up the album on Spotify, and turned out that this was a really good album. Now, the interesting thing about this is it's a mixture of psychedelic pop and traditional Indian music. Sometimes it leans a little bit more into the Indian, sometimes it leads a little bit more into the psychedelic. But regardless, every song on here is actually really good. It's a total banger. I think it's a band that not a lot of people have heard of. And to even give you a clue, for the longest time I thought this was an English band. And when I actually finally got around to ordering this on vinyl, it ended up being that they're Canadian, which would explain why whenever I see them on Instagram or anything like that, they're always touring around Canada. And so, yeah, the songs on here are absolutely incredible. It starts off with The Setting Sun, Heavy Moon, Masters of War, Hold On to Your Soul, A Silent Moment, Looking Through Baby Blue. Then it opens up with, on the second side, Sally Go Around the Sun, which again, it's a quick song. If you get a chance, after this video, I believe it's on YouTube as well, check out Sally Go Around the Sun by Elephant Stone. It's really good. Love is the Sinner, Hate the Sin, The Sea of Your Mind, and The Sacred Sound. And I believe it's song number 9. It's really, really into the Indian, more of the Indian music and the Indian vocals. And I guess I kind of find it interesting because I thought it was a really, really good combination. I really do like psychedelic music. not necessarily a fan of traditional Indian music, but Indian music is one of those things where when you mix it with something else, it elevates both elements of the music. A long time ago, I heard a band from Bangladesh that did some garage psych on a stream, and it turned out to be really good, but it was really rare, and I'll probably never ever find that single that it was on. But I really like it when you mix cultures a lot of times on some of this stuff. And I think that these guys do an excellent job of blending those together. It's one of those things, they're a small band. I wish I could play like a little sample for you, but it probably, you know how YouTube is, they'll probably cancel it. So I don't want that to happen because then it doesn't give people a chance to guess. But overall, if you see this album in the stores or anything by Elephant Stone, I mean, this is the only one I've got from them so far, but I've listened to their other albums and they're pretty good. But this one's here, I don't know if it's a nostalgic reason because it's the way I discovered them, but this album here, their second one from 2013, is my favorite. And so, with that, can you figure out